everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to recommend to you guys the books that I think you should read as a girl in your 20s, as a girl in my 20s. I would say I really got into reading in my 20s. I mean, I'm 22, so I'm not like that far into my 20s, but when I turned 20, I got really into reading and I've read a decent amount of books and I've compiled all the books that I think you should read as a girly in your 20s. So let's just get right into it with the first book, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is my all-time favorite, honestly, book. I adore this book because the female main character, Harriet, she is me. If you want to read a book about me, read this book about Harriet because that is my homegirl. This is a second chance romance, but honestly, throw that out the window because the reason I love this book for a girl in her 20s is because it deals with friendship and also like not being sure of something that you've been so sure of your whole life. In this book, Harriet and her ex-fiance break up, but they're in the same friend group, and so they don't tell their friends that they're broken up, but they're all going on like one last big hoorah vacation together, and so they have to pretend like they're still engaged, but they're not. So you probably can see where the dilemma comes in. But because of that, obviously she's lying to her friends. It's like a major point of this book is that she is not being completely truthful with her friends. And you kind of learn how over the years, like things have just changed between all of them as like a friend group, specifically the girls in the group. And obviously I'm not gonna tell you how this book ends, like duh. But I think there are so many really, really important friendship conversations had in this book, especially towards the end, and just being open and honest with your friends and how to kind of still have those really deep friendships as an adult. Because once you get out of college, you're not with your friends all the time, like you're almost like long distance friends. I think that can be so hard. I mean, it's hard on me sometimes. I just think it's handled really, really well in this book. I really love their friendship and how they kind of, you know, end out the book. I'm not going to tell you guys what happens. But the other big part of this book that I loved was her, again, I don't want to ruin or like spoil anything, but sometimes you think you want to do something and you end up not wanting to, or you just end up not loving it and like trying to figure out what is wrong with you, when in reality there's nothing wrong with you. It is just that sometimes like things that we like or we think we like, we don't actually like as we get older and we evolve and we mature. And I think this book just talks about that stuff so beautifully. And yeah, I need to stop because I will spoil it for you and I really don't want to, but oh my gosh. If you take one book away from this video, let it be Happy Place by Emily Henry. And the next book I want to talk about is a very recent read, The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. I read this book a month ago and have not stopped thinking about it. This book is about a woman in her old age. I don't know how old she is specifically in this book, but an older age. And it's all told through her letters and emails. So you get chapters, or like, not even chapters, just pages where it's an email she's sent or an email she's received, or a letter she's sent or a letter she's received. And all throughout the book, she's also writing letters to someone we don't know who. They're not addressed to anybody and they're never sent to that person. My biggest takeaway from this book specifically was honestly that no matter how old you are, no matter what stage of life you're in, you make mistakes and you can always like fix those mistakes. The next book I'm gonna talk about is Weyward. I got this book as kind of like a blind date with a book. I went to a local bookstore and a girl told me this was her favorite book. She thinks every woman should read this, and I cannot agree more. I never see anyone talk about this book, and I do want to say major trigger warnings. This book handles some very hard topics, so please look those up if you feel so inclined. I didn't, and I didn't know going in, and so I think it would have been a little nice maybe to know what was coming. But this book is from the point of view of three different women. One in the 1600s who's on trial for being a witch. One in the 40s, and she is a daughter. She's really young, and she's just in a really hard family. She's a very hard family life. And then the last girl is in 2019 and she is in a very abusive relationship. And so it's these three different women and you're hearing all their stories throughout like different eras. I love historical fiction, and this is, you know, pretty much historical fiction. Like you get a lot of different time periods, all of the things that these women go through, and just like I feel like anything I say will spoil this book and I really don't want to, but I just think that these women go through so much. Like each character goes through so much, and it just is like so inspiring to, I think, read about women specifically, even in like the 1600s, y'all. Like that's crazy. And just the things that they have to overcome and the way that it like shapes them and how they just come out the other side. I think this is just such a good historical fiction women's fiction. You need to read this book. No one talks about this enough. I love this book so much. Next is a book that I actually don't have. I read it on my Kindle, and that is Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. It was my first Kristen Hanna book, which I think if I read her other books, I would probably recommend those as well, just because of how much A, I loved this one, and B, I hear about the other books. Like, everyone's obsessed with her writing, and I understand why. Four Winds follows the story of this woman in the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. Those happened at the same time? Am I right? Hold on. I'm like second guessing myself. Okay, yeah, I thought so. I don't know why I second guessed myself, but it's about the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl, and this girl, and she starts off with a hard family life, kind of like in the book I just talked about. And something really impactful, I would say, happens to her and changes the course of her life and changes, I don't know, this book is all change, and honestly, it's really sad. But the one thing I would say I love so much about this book is that the female main character is so, I don't want to say shy, but I feel like your stereotypical female main character is like super outgoing and bubbly and happy and talkative and all of those things, and she's definitely not. She is shy, she's self-conscious, she's just kind of like, I'm trying to think of a good word to explain her. I feel like she just wants to please everyone and do things for other people. She like does not think about herself, and she's very much just like doing things for others and doesn't really take a lot of chances for herself, if that makes sense. And I just think, honestly, reading books about women who, as much as I love positive, happy, outgoing girl, because I definitely have those qualities, I feel like I also have, you know, qualities of other female main characters where they are a little bit more like introspective and a little shy sometimes, maybe a little self-conscious and like an overthinker. And I think it's just so nice to read a book about a woman like that and her struggles, and just seeing her be so strong and like go through things that I could never have gone through. Like, truly, I am in a book club, we were talking about this book, and we were all like, I don't think any of us could have survived what she survived and like done the things that she did to support herself and her family. And it is just so inspirational, and loved it. Really good book, and you guys just won't be sorry if you read any Kristen Hanna book, even though I've only read one, but like, I am so confident in saying that. And also just this book, Four Winds, so good. The next book I'm going to talk about, I also don't have read it on my Kindle, and that is The Midnight Library. I also read this for book club, and that's one other thing I'll tell you, girls. In your 20s, join a book club. Tell your best friends that like to read a little bit, even if they don't read a lot, and even if you don't read a lot, tell them we're making a book club. We're reading a book once a month, because what, 2 of these books, I'm pretty sure, were books that were picked in my book club, and I probably wouldn't have like reached for if it hadn't been for that. So yeah, another tip, get in a book club. But we read The Midnight Library, and it is, again, just like such a good book. I'm gonna sound so repetitive because these are all just fantastic reads, but The Midnight Library is about a woman who dies. Again, trigger warnings, please look them up. Please look them up before you read these books. But she dies, and she goes to this like library, and it's kind of like, I guess you could say like the waiting room of the afterlife, like before you get to the afterlife. And she essentially gets to go back and relive her life if she had made different choices. And so as a girl who, I wouldn't say I like regret things, but I'm definitely a what if person. Like, I think about the what ifs constantly and how things could be different if I made a different decision. For people like that, girls like that, this book is, you need to read it, honey. She lives her whole life being honestly like regretful and wishing she had taken so many opportunities and changed so many things about her life, and she gets to go back and live those lives and see what they were like. And I think the moral of the story is the grass is always greener, and be grateful and happy for what you have and the decisions you've made. Like, you wouldn't make these decisions if you didn't need to. Obviously, we all make mistakes, we're all just people, but there's no point in regretting anything and thinking, well, if I would have just done this or would have stuck with this, or if I would have like married this person, my life would just be so different and so much better. Because you don't know that. You truly don't know that. And that is a big part of this book, is she, you know, just assumes, oh, I'm so sorry for me, woe is me, because I, you know, chose to not do these things. Whoa, that does not sound like great grammar. I chose to not do these things, and, you know, it impacted my life so much. But in reality, like, spoiler alert, no, the grass is always greener. You're always gonna think, what if? You're always gonna think things could be better off, but unless you live it and experience it, you'll never know. So don't overthink it, even though I overthink everything. The next book I'm gonna talk about is another Emily Henry book that I actually just read. Like, I just finished this book, and it's A Funny Story by Emily Henry. Now, this one is also really good. This might be my second favorite Emily Henry book. Happy Place will always, always, always be number one. But this book is so good, especially if you're someone who has gone through a hard breakup, because the main like plot of this book is that our female main character and our male main character, this is gonna be really confusing, stick with me. They're both dating / engaged. So the female main character is engaged, the male main character is dating someone, and those two people, the fiance and the girlfriend, get together. Are you understanding what I'm saying? They're like best friends from childhood and they get together, leaving our female main character and our male main character single, and they have to live together, which is like kind of confusing, but they just do. And it's honestly just about getting over a breakup and like kind of growing as a person, because our female main character, Daphne, love her name, has followed her fiance and is kind of like inserting herself into his life as opposed to making her own life, if that makes sense. And she kind of is like reflecting on that all throughout the book of like, you know, this isn't her town, these aren't her friends. She kind of like was always just clinging to her fiance, and it's like something that she always had in the back of her mind but just never felt like changing because she didn't have to. And now she's kind of put in this position where she has to figure things out for herself, and I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. Emily Henry, the woman you are. I think I've said that like 13 million times on YouTube, but Emily Henry is just my girl through and through. Love her so much. The last book we're gonna talk about is a nonfiction book, and that is Atomic Habits. I read this spring break when you were in college, and actually I'm thinking about doing a reread of this book. This book tells you essentially how to make a change in your life without having to make like a super big dramatic change. I'm not someone who is good at making big life altering changes or decisions. Like I do them if I have to, but I'm not keen on it. I'm a much more like, let's make small adjustments, and those small adjustments will equal to a big change. And that's really what this book is about. If you guys watch Samantha Jo, and I'm sure there's other people on YouTube too, but she used to always say like getting 1% better every day, and that comes from this book, and just making those small changes and like tweaking habits and making habits more doable, or like making them more, I think it's like making them attractive is how he words it in the book. It's been a while, I need to reread this. But just making habits that maybe you don't have or don't like really want but like need, making them more attractive, making yourself want to do them. This is such a good book to like start the new year with, or to start a new season with, because you guys know me, I'm a big reset, refresh kind of gal, and I love the start of a new season. So even though we're in winter, like you could read this in March or April, get you into the springtime, read this over the summer, read this at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, anytime you want. Really good book. I'm not a nonfiction girl, but I love, 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 love Atomic Habits. And those are the books I would recommend as a girl in my 20s to you, another girl in your 20s. If you enjoy, please let me know, because this was really fun to make. I love talking about books that I've read, and I would love to make more videos like this. So if you read any of these books, please let me know. If you've read them and you agree, let me know. If you have a book rec for me, you guys know what my taste is if you've watched the video, so please let me know. And as always, love you guys so much, and I'll see you so soon. Bye!